Tax Hive is a partner with Kevin O'Leary, and one of his quotes is, "In business, poo-poo happens," right? Made about every mistake you can possibly make. So I lost the 1.5 million, but it was worse than losing that because I had leveraged my home and my car to keep the business pumping. I built relationships. I might have gotten better funding. I might have gotten other opportunities. I might have gotten our speakers in front of their communities, but I didn't do that. And I made the decision at that moment I was going to build relationships. And then over the next 12 months, I was able to pay back the 1.5 plus interest and took the business back. But it was only because of relationships. So I've lived the example of going through it. And ultimately, the thing that pulled me out was relationship building.
What's the meaning behind it? And what is the fuel that keeps you going?
Crumble cookies, swig, Tax Hive, got these things going. And at the end of the day, I love business. I love all this stuff, but I love getting home and spending time with my family more than ever.
What's been some of your secrets when it comes to networking and getting your foot in the door to these bigger opportunities?
Love this question. That's what I do. I live it every day. So I found that there's 3 powers of networking. And these are my experience. Number 1,
he's faced $1 million losses and turned them into $1 million partnerships. Co-founder of Tax Hive with Kevin O'Leary, master networker, strategic deal maker, and family man. Today, he's here on UPBEAT, proof that relationships aren't just strategy, they're everything. Shawn Finnegan, thank you so much for being on UPBEAT, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Parker. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. And Rainey is who introduced us. How do you know Rainey?
I've known Rainey for a long time. I just love his energy, his faith. I mean, I love everything about him. He's a true visionary when it comes to sneakers. So him and I have done multiple sneaker events together, and he's just one of those guys I love to be around.
Yeah, he was a thrill to have on the show, and so I'm very grateful that he connected us. Also, is today your birthday?
It was yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Yep.
Okay. Well, around the time of recording, it's your birthday. So happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you so much. I got lots of love yesterday. It was a great day.
Cool. And I'm hoping, I usually do this actually at the end of the show, but I'm a professional beatboxer.
Wow.
So I was going to do a quick
beatbox I would love that.
with your name in it.
Dude, okay. I'd love it. I'd love to capture that and post it.
Okay, for sure. Sorry, I'm not on my actual mic, but we're working with what we got here. Happy birthday, Shawn. Look at the Shawn Finnegan. Shawn Finnegan.
Dude, I love it, man. I swear that sounded like 10 different instruments going at the same time.
Almost.
That is some serious discipline to get that art down. That's incredible, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
Just to introduce you to the listeners, do you mind doing kind of a quick recap?
Yeah, sure. Gotcha. So I was born and raised into a family that was really kind of didn't have very much money. So my dad was a bookstore manager trying to raise 5 kids. My mom was like the side hustle, incredible butt kicking, mom that we were her marketing arm for her preschool. I learned to sell. I learned to, I wasn't going to go to my parents to say, hey, can you give me some allowance? And so I learned to sell in the streets. Is how I made money growing up. And I feel like that was a skill that helped support me even to this day, is because I learned at a young age, you have to get in front of people, you have to present to them, and you have to create business out of it, right? So that's just a little bit of background of my story.
Amazing. Yeah, and relationships have been a big part of that. So I'm excited with the audience of this show. I think they would love to hear about networking.
Yes.
And how that they can build relationships to, I guess, improve their side hustles.
Yes.
And I'm sure that kind of wraps in with the whole Kevin O'Leary thing and Shark Tank and all that. So would love to hear your insight.
For sure. So I'll just give a quick little background of how I started building relationships. So 2009, I decided to start my first business. 2009 was a recession, big recession in the U.S. I wish someone would have shaken me and said, don't start a business in 2009. But I did. I was young, aggressive, wanted to go after it. And so I'm sitting in front of a computer. I'm pulling up spreadsheet, and I'm putting in my projections of what I think I'm going to create, and I create this spreadsheet that looks amazing. And according to the spreadsheet, it looks like I'm going to become a millionaire pretty quick in launching this business. But I don't have money, so I decide to raise money. I meet with about 70 investors, and I have 23 of them tell me yes to me raising money. Got a lot of rejection, but got a big chunk of yeses, and I was able to raise $1.5 million from 23 investors. So that was a happy day for me. I remember my parents were proud of me. My neighbors thought I was a baller. I remember going on LinkedIn, putting on LinkedIn that I was the CEO of this company. I was ready to go take the world by storm. And Tax Hive is a partner with Kevin O'Leary, and one of his quotes is, "In business, poo-poo happens," right? And over the next 12 months, I made about every mistake you can possibly make. And during those 12 months, I made operations, sales, marketing, everything. My first event, it was a live events business. My first event was with David Bach, the Automatic Millionaire. Here I'm supposed to be this high-flying CEO putting on these great events, selling tons of tickets. Well, my direct mail I sent out got hit literally by a hurricane, and my mail got delivered 2 weeks after my event. So here I am, 500 chairs in the room. He's coming in a limousine to see this incredible crowd, and I have maybe 30 to 50 people in those chairs. Painful, paid him like 70 grand for it. So a series of mistakes. During that time, I have my buddy Kevin. He keeps coming up to me and he's like, "Hey, there's this great event. You look like you need help. Why don't you go to this event and go meet some entrepreneurs and go meet these people?" And I'm like, "I can't do that. I'm so busy. I'm knee deep in crocodiles. I'm just trying to grind this thing out." Long story short, over the next 12 months, I lost the 1.5 million, but it was worse than losing that because I had leveraged my home and my car to keep the business pumping. And really painful time because I felt like I had a pounds per square inch pressure. I had employees that had faith and confidence in me. I had my family that I was supposed to be supplying and providing for. I had all my friends and family. They see me going through the highest high to now the lowest low, and I felt like I had a pounds per square inch pressure on me at every level. And it was literally those months were the hardest months of my life, where I had this pit in my stomach. And for me, a rock bottom was on Thursday. I literally had in my operating account maybe $1,500 left, and my payroll was closer to $2,500 to $3,000, and I couldn't make payroll. And I woke up. I was praying that night for a miracle. I didn't sleep a wink the Thursday night. I wake up the next morning. A miracle doesn't happen, and there's no deposits. So I literally, in the world at the time, I don't have $1,000 that I can find. That's how leveraged and how much I'd gone to everything I possibly could. And I go to lunch, and I'm just like, have I overturned every rock? I get a phone call from my controller, and she's like, "Hey, Shawn, I was digging through the safe. I found some petty cash of $3,000. What do you want me to do with it?" And I was like, talk about a Hosanna from divinity moment for me. And I said, hang on to the money. I drove back to the office. I took the cash and I put it in the bank, and I made payroll by that much. Wow. And I remember going back and presenting the checks, handwritten checks to each individual team. And that's how close I made payroll. Literally a miraculous experience for me. And that afternoon, literally, I started breaking down all the mistakes. I felt like I became an expert on all the failures I had made over the last year. And I started prioritizing what was my biggest failure. And I came to the conclusion that the biggest failure was I didn't build relationships in business. And that meeting that Kevin kept trying to get my friend to go see other business owners and to build relationships was my biggest mistake. Because had I done that, and had I built relationships, I might have gotten better funding. I might have gotten other opportunities. I might have gotten our speakers in front of their communities, but I didn't do that. And I made the decision that time, at that moment, I was going to build relationships. I built relationships with a couple of guys that were in my network. We became partners. I went on this run, and over the next 12 months, I was able to pay back the 1.5 plus interest. So it might have been like 2.1 or something like that. And took the business back. But it was only because of relationships. So I've lived the example of going through it. And ultimately, the thing that pulled me out was relationship building.
Amazing. Thank you so much for breaking all that down. And I can tell, you've probably shared that a lot, but I can tell that you're still feeling the emotion. Like when you're going back to that place, like you can just pick up the emotion in your voice. And so I just want to say thanks for being vulnerable on this podcast and on all these podcasts and stages to let people in on your story. I think that's one of the most powerful things to resonate with other people, and it helps in building relationships. In those dark times, what was like the one thing that kind of pulled you out of it? I know you mentioned relationship building as far as building the business back and everything, but what pulled you through those moments where it was hard even to see the next day?
Yeah, so for me, it was you sometimes when you're going through that, you feel shocked. You feel shell-shocked. And sometimes that I've seen that cause in my life and other entrepreneurs, you sometimes freeze. I actually met with one guy yesterday who's going through a really hard time in his business, lost a ton of clients, and he's trying to figure it out. And I said, well, what are you doing right now? What kind of action are you taking? And he said, well, I guess I'm not. He went on vacation for 3 weeks because he's so stressed. So I said, well, what are you going to do to change that? And he said, well, I'll start by making a list. And that's what I did is I just made a list. I just took it down to a basic list of things I had to do because in those moments, it requires action. Action leads to momentum. And as we know from The Secret is when you start taking action, you start doing things and start moving, then energy starts flowing and you start bringing on clients. So him and I yesterday sat down and I was like, well, let's make a list. What are you going to do this week? And he's like, this week, I'm going to go for 5 new clients. And I said, excellent. And we actually made a list together. I said, so every day you wake up and the list could include, hey, I'm going to read today for 30 minutes. Check. I'm going to go walk for 30 minutes. I'm going to go spend time with my wife. I'm going to go do this. And you make a list and you go down to the basic tackling and blocking. And that's what helped me pull me out of all the darkest times.
Brilliant. And is that part of like a coaching or mentorship thing, or is that just a buddy of yours?
Yeah. So I take meetings. So since that time I started building relationships, I fill up my schedule first for lunches. So I had this crazy experience with Kevin where if you've ever been around someone who is so busy that you feel like a slacker, that's Kevin O'Leary to me. And I traveled with Kevin. I met him about a decade ago. And in that live events business, we traveled together. So I was with him in cars and hotels for years. And every time I'm with him, I've never seen someone more efficient with his time. And he doesn't have to be. He's super, super successful, wealthy. And here he is. It's just like his schedule is scheduled on the 30, I feel like. And so I'm always like texting someone, hey, call me so I look busy around him. It's like, so I was like, hey, Kevin, this was a couple of years ago. I was like, hey, Kevin, do you do any New Year's resolutions? And he's like, yeah, I do. This was in like November. And I said, well, what's yours going to be this year? And he said, this next year, I'm going to be 10% more efficient with my time. And I've seen his schedule and I'm like, that's impossible. That's another hour a day. How's he going to come up with that hour to 2 hours a day? And then I didn't see him again until February. I was like, hey, Kevin, were you able to accomplish that? And he's like, yeah. And I said, how'd you do it? And he said, well, I was looking at my schedule really closely and I noticed there was a hole in the middle. And the hole in the middle was a lunchtime. And I'd been doing lunch alone or a dinner time. And I decided that I can use that time to build relationships in my business. So if I'm traveling anywhere, his right hand, Nancy, will reach out to someone in San Diego, say, hey, Kevin O'Leary, the Shark Tank's coming out. Do you want to go to dinner with him? He schedules a dinner with one of the top business owners in San Diego. They do content at dinner, and he builds a relationship that could be a strategic partnership. And I was like, all right, my schedule's not like that, and I'm not nearly in demand, so I'm going to do that. So I made a goal a couple of years ago to never do lunch alone. And I can count on one hand how many times I've actually missed it. But that's the one thing I schedule first. So that was a lunch yesterday. He's an important friend to me. And that was like me just like, hey, I've been there where you are. I want to help you out. I don't do coaching or anything like that. But that was like one of those appointments where I felt like I needed to spend an hour with that individual. But I have right now, if you look at my schedule for the next 3 to 4 weeks, those lunches are gone. pound for pound, I think it's the best time you can spend with someone.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think it's cool. Like, it's the art of building relationships, but even beyond that, like, it's just a generous thing to do, to be putting yourself aside and helping others because you've been through it. And I think that's essentially what it means to like live in purpose or calling, is to have gone through the crap, to have learned lessons, and look back and help people who are going through what you have.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And on the note of setting goals, like you had mentioned, I think that's important for building trust too, is building trust with yourself. Once you see that you're meeting those goals and starting small and doing them, like you said, momentum, and it just goes from there.
Yeah.
Love that. Those are definitely some clippable moments that we'll make sure to capture. When it comes to networking, I know that's something I teased at the beginning.
Yeah.
What's been some of your secrets when it comes to networking and getting your foot in the door to these bigger opportunities?
Love this question. It's what I do. I live it every day. So I found that there's 3 powers of networking. There's the power of 3 in this case. And these are my experience. Number 1, you're in Boise. Doesn't matter where you are, you can find live events with incredible people that come to live events. You get an opportunity to meet multiple people in a short period of time. You should take advantage of that as a business owner. A lot of people just do Zoom, but hey, get out of that Zoom chair, go to a live event, go meet a lot of people. It's incredible. But I feel like there's best practices as at a live event that most people don't do. Because I go to them, I'm going to 1 tonight, I'm going to 2 tonight. I go to 3 to 5 per week, and I've been doing it for years. So I've been going down the rabbit hole. What makes someone successful in a live event? What makes people not so successful in what they're trying to accomplish? What I've found is how you show up to that live event is everything. Just like with anything else, most people come in. I went to an event 30 days ago, and I sat by the door, and it was an incredible cabin, so nice, cool people. I sat by the door just to see how people would show up. 90% were doing this on their way in with their phone. Head down on the phone. This is a safety blanket. Does it look like you really want to come up? I look very busy. No one's going to talk to me. So I look at those 2 doors you walk through as a portal. And before you walk through that portal, you give a really powerful intention of what you want to accomplish. If you have any kind of business, if you have anything that you're trying to scale, what is it that you're after? And what's your strategy for beyond those doors? When you walk through those doors, don't stand in the corner with your phone. You walk straight to the middle. Try this out on your next event. Walk straight to the middle. Guess who's in the middle? The event person who is the influencer in the room is standing in the middle up front. I go right up to that person and I shake their hand and I introduce myself and say, hey, I'm Shawn. We have a tax business. We work with Kevin O'Leary. I would love any introductions because this is a person who knows a lot of people in the room. I've gotten the best introductions that way. They take me over. Oh, well, you do taxes? You need to talk to so-and-so. Oh, would you mind introducing me? Great. They walk over, and then riches are made in the follow-through. People don't follow through. They meet someone like Parker at the event. They don't follow through. They say, hey, later I'll text them. I follow through every time. I'm like, hey, Parker, man, based on what you're doing and what I'm doing, we need to work together. I would love to spend time with you next week. How's your schedule for lunch? And if you don't mind, I'd like to schedule it now before I leave because I want to get this locked in. It's super important to me. The answer is yes. So now I leave with, you don't want to do it for everyone in the room, but where it makes sense, 3 to 5 people, I leave that meeting and I have follow-ups. Now it's not awkward. I don't get home and I'm like, oh man, remember I met you at the thing, and you're like, what thing was that? So now I have the meeting set up Tuesday at 2:00 or at lunch. You're here and we spend an hour together, and that's the greatest way to scale. You can put a multiple on your word of mouth business if you just do that one thing.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. And it's kind of, I just envision going on the offense, instead of being passive, or instead of waiting for people to come up to you, instead of flooding your mind with all your insecurities, you're just kind of taking control of everything. Like, hey, I know what I want. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do the thing and play offense.
Amen. Yeah, just something you can do physiology. This sounds strange, but when you're feeling that inferiority complex and the imposter syndrome, your physiology tends to change where you start to shift yourself on one side. I like to have both feet firmly planted, and you'll find if you just plant both feet and be open, you're going to attract people to you because of your physiology. They look at you as a leader in the room. So I'm a huge believer. It's how you show up. The second one is I always ask people, they're like, hey, where do I go to build relationships? Well, you've probably built them in this thing right here. You probably have thousands of them. Many times, I had one lady the other day, had like 12,000 contacts. And she's asking where to go to meet great people. We probably planted 12,000 seeds in here. The first thing I did was I actually pulled out my phone. I went old school with a spreadsheet, and I made a list of 400 people. One, who could be a good referring partner to me in my business, or two, who could buy my product. And I made those two buckets. And then I went to work. It was 5 to 10 minutes a day. Hey, Parker, how's it going? Give me an update on your family, man. I would love, how are things going in your business? What's going? I just did that for 10 to 15 minutes a day. And I built so many deals and so many relationships with what you already have right here.
Jeez, that's awesome. Yeah. And even outside of contacts, like if you've got a LinkedIn, Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook, I mean, you're then in the thousands for most people, at least a couple thousand Facebook friends or so.
Yeah. People always look at, like, let's say they only have 500 people that follow them on Instagram. If you put 500 people into a room, that is a lot of people. It'd be a shockingly amount of people.
Yeah, it's like your own event. Amazing. And you said there were three things?
Third
Was
one.
there a third one?
Third one is what I see fumbled the most is referrals. So I get texts all the time. You get texts. Hey, I got a text from Rainey, right?
Yeah.
Introducing me to you. What'd we do from that? Best practice. We followed up. Riches are made in the follow through. And great to connect with you. Hey, let's jump on. Love to do the podcast. So a lot of times I'll text someone that is a no-brainer. Like they can get a sale or they can get a great partner in their business for referrals. They don't respond. And it makes me feel dumb that I responded. I'm like, oh, I'm good buddies with this guy. Let me introduce you. And then all of a sudden he doesn't respond. And that person's like, really? You know what I mean? So it is horrible to introduce. So most people don't do it right. I immediately say, Parker, thank you so much. Just like I did with Rainey. I was like, hey, Rainey, thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate your friendship. You edify them. And then you say, hey, Parker, great to engage with you. How's your schedule? I would love to do that. And we scheduled before we left that text, right?
Yeah, we did that quickly.
Yeah. And what happens is now Rainey feels good because we're doing a podcast right now. So guess what? Rainey's going to think next time he meets a cool person like Parker, he's like, I need to introduce him to my buddy Shawn, because Shawn's going to take care of him and they're going to do some stuff together and they're going to follow through. So I'm a huge, huge lover. Just picture it as one of the greatest compliments you can get is you have a relationship with someone that you've invested years in and you're willing to introduce them to someone else because you see a great fit. Take advantage of that. You can put you'll make a lot more money in word of mouth because now I'm on the short list of a lot of people sending me referrals. I haven't even looked today. I guarantee you have some intros in here. So that is number 3 is take advantage of referrals. They're manna from heaven.
Love that. Great examples. And I want to point out too, and I'm not trying to like diss on anyone, but with the podcast, I try to keep momentum by getting referrals from people who have been on the show. And I've been referred several people, and I have noticed that a lot of them don't respond or don't do it. And I'll say, your being, your persona, you're willing to help, your resume, your bio, all the things is kind of a higher caliber too of a lot of those people. And you're the one who responded and who's here and is doing this podcast, having never met me before, right? Whereas other people who don't have all those accomplishments and don't have that same lived experience are the ones ghosting me and not following through,
Yeah.
which is
Case in
interesting.
point. Yep. Exactly. I also want to be, I have my short list of people I introduce to because they handle my friends so well and they give just tons of value to my friends. So I'm like, hey, you need to meet so-and-so. So I think you just need to be on if you imagine if you were on 20 or 30 people's short list for referrals, what would that mean to your word of mouth business?
Man, it was like 10x things, I feel like.
This is the most common thing I hear from business owners is their word of mouth. And they kind of wear it as a badge of honor. I'm word of mouth. My product's so good, my service so good, I'm word of mouth, which I love. But then as you start peeling back the layers, well, what are you doing in your word of mouth business? And you see that they're really not taking advantage fully of all three of those powers of building relationships, right? And there's just so much more room for us all to improve.
Very true. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would say too that you mentioned this with raising money as part of your story earlier too. But what's coming to mind now for me is pushing through the no's. So like when people do say no or when they don't show up, what'd you say? It was like 23 people said yes to helping you raise the money.
Yep.
I'm curious how many no's you went through and then what you do to kind of keep the optimism through those rejections.
I wish I could say I was amazing at that, but sometimes you get a no, you're like, you get self-doubt. You beat yourself up, and it's a challenge, right? And you're like, man, where did I go wrong? And geez, I messed that up, and I messed it. You start spiraling in those moments because a lot's riding on these presentations. Like when we first pitched Kevin on the Tax Hive business, we had so much riding on this thing. If he says no, we're going to run a tax business without Kevin's face on it and his brand and his likeness and his image. And that's really tough. So we sent him a text and he said, hey, come on down. We weren't on the Shark Tank show. We went down to Arizona and pitched him around a table like this. And, if you watch the show, he says, the numbers, if you don't know the numbers, you're dead to me. So this created a lot of stress amongst us all, right? Because we wanted to know our numbers. We wanted to know the thing. We're like, hey, we do bookkeeping. We do tax filing. We do tax planning. We're trying to solve the issue for the small business owner. The small business owner does not get the treatment because there's the big four and they go try to get help from them. And the big four is like, add a couple of zeros and then come back and see me. So no one's helping them. So then they go over the counter or they go see a cousin who doesn't help them with tax planning. And most small business owners get fleeced in tax. And that's what we wanted to solve. So we stand up and we start presenting this, and Kevin stops us like this, maybe 3 minutes in or 4 minutes in. And that was like the no. We thought it was like a no because we're like, well, maybe this wasn't the fit and we got to pack up our stuff and go home. And I remember looking over at everyone, we're like, well, I guess. And he said, hey, let's do this because Kevin had been presenting this to business owners that this is a missing piece that no one focuses on. If I ask a business owner, what's your expenses? They never say tax. They say employee cost, product cost, shipping cost. They know all those other things that are living on the daily. But when it comes to actual tax, they don't do any planning. And then all of a sudden they have to cut this nasty check at tax time many times. And that's not a good strategy. So he's been presenting this to business owners. This is way overlooked for especially this small business owner. So now he can work with Tax Hive where we provide an incredible value. He's like, let's do this. Let's make this happen. That was like 5.5 years ago, right? So again, it's like when you feel like that no's coming, you get the yes on the other side, or you get many no's. It's all about getting that yes, and then it creates that momentum, right? And it builds you for life.
Right. Love that. Yeah. And so Tax Hive is totally different than live events business. What kicked that off? Was it through some of those lessons with money and stuff that just inspired this whole new path for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we also went through a global pandemic that helped, and no one's doing live events. And I think it's an important, you have to learn. There's a great book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? We've all read that one. It's essentially that we as business owners can expect change to happen, and we have to embrace the change and learn how to take advantage of that change to your benefit. And that's what we saw with the pandemic. No live events are happening. We could have just said, hey, well, we had a great run. hey, there's nothing we can do. We can't even book venues right now. But we decide, hey, what's a way that we can help solve problems for business owners out there? And that's what we came up with. The tax business is what we wanted to scale, right? It's so important that we learn to embrace those kind of things.
I wanted to ask you, with everything you're doing right now, what's the meaning behind it and what is the fuel that keeps you going?
So I have a few different things. So I've been Crumble Cookies, Swig, Tax Hive, got these things going. And at the end of the day, I had my birthday, as you mentioned yesterday, and you start thinking about your future generations and your posterity more than ever, right? So really, I have this daughter left at home. I have 2 married daughters, and I've thought more about them in the last few years than I think I have my whole life. That's really what's driving me. And I love business. I love all this stuff, but I love getting home and spending time with my family more than ever in my life, because I've had 2 daughters move out. I have this perspective where I know that my time, at least at home while my daughter's there, is limited because she's going to be gone at some point. So I value every single minute with this little girl.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And that sparks so many other questions. Could be here another hour, but I'll just say, or ask, how have you been able to, I know it's kind of a stigma around this, like there's not really a way to perfectly balance everything, but how have you been able to make more of that family time and live more fulfilled while still being such a good entrepreneur and staying on top of things?
Yeah, so I believe in getting, like, we're at home and there's technology at home and there's distractions. I love just taking time with my daughter and going to the park, taking our dog for a walk. And I'll tell you just a 30-sec quick experience. I took my daughter some time ago to the park. She's 19 now. Just this small, awesome little girl, and we're walking our dog at the park, having this great conversation. It's daddy, daughter. And as we're walking around, we hear this loud metallic bang, and there's a car that hits another car in the street pretty close to us, maybe 20 yards away. Dang. And as we approach, we see a lady get out of the car. She's not injured, but she is devastated, and she is really distraught. She sits down on the sidewalk in front of us, and she starts crying. And we're approaching this accident, approaching this lady, and we pass by, and I turned to my daughter and I was like, sweetie, that was so crazy. Are you okay? And I look over and my daughter's not there. And I look back and my daughter's, this little girl, sitting by this woman on the sidewalk. And she has her arm around her. And she's saying encouraging things. And I was like, well, that engraved this image in my mind of my daughter sitting there with this girl, this lady, trying to console her during that time. And in my mind, I was just passing by. And it was like, what a great example. Like, we're supposed to be mentors and teachers, but in that moment, it taught me more about what it means to be like Christ than anything I've ever seen.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's a really good story and a good example for all of us, to refocus on what really matters most.
Amen.
Shawn, thank you for being so vulnerable, sharing these stories, man, and spending time with me here on Upbeat. And for the listeners, this is a phenomenal episode. Lots of value, but also lots of just good storytelling, and I appreciate it. To close things out, I'm going to do another quick beatbox for you.
I love the first one. I love it. I love to hear it again. Another one. Yeah.
Thank you, Shawn. It was Shawn. Shawn, it was Shawn Finnegan.
Dude, love it, man. So good. I don't know how you do that, dude. I don't get it. I think it's amazing talent. I could watch that all day. I love it, man. I think it's just discipline to figure out how to create that kind of sound in so many different instruments at the same time. I think it's like some superhuman skill or talent you have.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely God inspired, and he planted that passion in me when I was a little kid. I was 7 years old when I first started, and it's been a huge part of my story. So I don't know if you have a podcast or anything,
I do.
or if you do events, but if you ever want to I guess go down that rabbit hole,
I
of
do.
everything I did to get
So unique.
Okay.
I think it'd be so great for you at an event of mine to get up there and do a beatbox.
Oh, that would be sweet. Yeah, that's my passion. I love doing that. I'm kind of like a room resetter.
I have an event I do next week. It's called the X Room. There's going to be about 300 people there.
Oh, sweet. Hey, I'll have to see if I can drive
Come on down.
and-
If you could come down,
Yeah.
I'd love to have you. If not, I do it every quarter. You have an open invitation to beatbox in front of that kind of crowd.
Okay, we'll do it. Thanks so much, Shawn.
Thank you, Parker.
Hey, just so the listeners can see, that was, the relationship building, networking stuff, everything we talked about happening in real time. Now it's just the follow through, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's what it's all about. Exactly.
Thanks, man. Hey, have a good one.
Thank you, Parker.